Welcome to Plausible Foolishness. I'm the mad scientist, Matt. One of your two magnanimous emperors of the Rube Empire. And I've got a perspective on things.
What's going
wrong
on,
side.
baby? It is game time. The strong one is here, and I have a perspective, an opinion, a reality today. Are you ready to go today, bro?
Oh, I'm ready.
Dude, I'm so jacked up. The future of this podcast is so bright. I had to put sunglasses on. I mean, I'm talking, I wear my sunglasses at night so I can, don't know the rest of the song, but I'm going to quote the first part of it. You feel me? I am so jacked up today. I am so jacked up because one, I'm in my brand new home. This is the first podcast from the new digs. I am unfortunately not at my boy Mad Scientist's house right now. I am not because of Corona, bro. Not because of the coronavirus, which is no longer called Corona. It's no longer called COVID-19. It may be called COVID-1984, which is probably more appropriate. But from this point
100%.
on, the strong one only calls Rona the Rona because it has lost all the co at the beginning because it is not as deadly as they said. Here's your Corona Bro stat before we get into the greatest podcast ever to breach the screens of Twitch. Here it is. You ready for it, Mad Scientist Matt?
I'm ready.
26,000 confirmed Rona cases on college campuses over the last 3 weeks of college. Guess how many deaths, my man?
Oh gosh, it would have to be like 20,000 because this is the deadliest thing ever.
You would be absolutely and totally wrong. Despite popular belief, despite NPR, CBS, ABC, NBC, Fox,
Say what?
preaching to you that this is the deadliest thing of all time, of 26,000 confirmed Rona cases, 0 deaths. In fact, 0 hospitalizations. So remember, the Corona Bros told us, don't let the kids go back to school. They're all going to die. None of them have died.
How about that?
It wasn't for them. It's for when they go see grandma. Spoiler alert. You know what the median
When did you care about grandma when
no, they
when
don't care about
patients
grandma.
were being forced into the nursing homes?
Listen, liberals don't care about grandma because liberals want grandma to die.
Liberals,
Grandma votes conservative.
leftists don't care about anybody
That's
as
true.
long as it promotes their political agenda.
That's true. That's true. But what about grandma? Here's the problem. The median age for the Rona death is 80. And guess what? The only thing that's not the only thing they're dying from. They're dying with Corona, as we talked about last week on one of the greatest shows we have ever put together, the 6% episode. It might be our best. I'm not going to lie to you, bro. It was our best episode. Listen, Witchcraft was one of my favorite episodes. And if you didn't watch it, head over to Twitch.tv.
Word
Go ahead.
word wizardry, you mean?
Word Wizardry was a phenomenal show.
Yeah, it was
It was
good.
great.
It was good.
It was great.
I think it was better for us because we were blowing our own minds at the same while we were discussing it.
Word Wizardry was very, very telling of the claws that society has on our language, our thoughts, and our speech pattern. But the reality of the situation is I don't think there was any more intensity brought than last episode. I'm not going to lie to you. The intensity was on another level.
I agree. We were there. We were in it. We were in it to win it.
Bro, people were blowing.
We're still in it to win it. I'm still in it to win it. I'm ready today, man.
I'm always ready. This is episode 128, man.
Yeah, you know it. We've got 127 previous episodes show how ready we are.
Dude, 128 episodes. Dude, this is insane.
Bobby the Bull with the good comment. Homeschooling master race for the win. We're gonna talk about that today, because you don't really believe that they're going to let this flood of people moving to homeschooling go unchecked, do you? Do you really think that?
Silly peasant. We need your money in public schools.
We need
We
your
need you to
we need your
change.
kids' minds on our Potter's wheel.
Oh, crazy. But anyways, we're about to get into the most intense episode of all time. I don't know how it's going to be. Listen, it's hard to top Everest. Okay, it is hard to top Everest, but we are going to do it right here, right now in episode 121. So if you're following us right now on twitch.tv/plausible foolishness, we love you. Make sure you hit that like, that subscribe, and that follow. Remember, your subscriptions fuel the intensity that will destroy the evil that we encounter every single freaking day.
Mm.
The immensity of your support has blinded me to the point where I have to wear sunglasses because I can't even see. I can't even see how amazing it's happening right now. So if you're on twitch.tv/plausible foolishness, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. That really fuels us and helps us do what we got to do. If you're on Facebook Live, or if you're on Instagram Live, or if you're anything else watching us live, we love you. And especially you TikTokers at the Strong One Nation, make sure to twitch.tv/plausible foolishness. Get the complete episode. Not only can you see my fat, ugly face, you can see the sexiest man ever to stream, to ever hold bandwidth on the internet. The mad scientist, Mad Matt. So make sure you head over to twitch.tv/plausible foolishness, man. Are you ready to get into this craziness today, bro?
Yes, I am.
Let's
I've
go.
been ready. I've been thinking about it all day.
Gosh, I'm ready to clean this up. Hence the Kenny Omega shirt, the greatest wrestler in the world that finally woke up.
Amen.
After
He is the greatest wrestler in the world.
But I'm ready to go. Let's get going.
A little Snapdragon.
Snapdragon.
Anyway.
All
right. So, I'm gonna just lay down a little foundation.
I thought you were going to say lay down the love. I thought you were going to take it to another level. Let me lay down some
love.
Give him love
tonight. Anyway, so this morning,
yeah,
I was checking my YouTube feed for a little edutainment, if you will.
Edutainment, okay.
Edutainment, and I stumbled across a interview from Glenn Beck's interview series with one Professor James Lindsay.
Whoa, a professor?
Or at least he probably goes by Dr. James Lindsay now, because I don't think he's actually teaching at the university level currently.
Okay, gotcha.
And if you might remember this fellow, this fine gentleman from the Grievance Study hoax sometime last year. He's one of the 3 or 4 academics that decided to make up social justice critical studies, to get them published in these so-called scholarly journals.
Yeah.
And, they did stuff like the dog park is a haven for toxic masculinity because of dog rape. Because male dogs will rape female dogs, and it can trigger, et cetera, et cetera.
Masculinity, bro.
They took a section of Mein Kampf and relabeled, they took Jew and changed it for cisgendered male or whatever. It doesn't matter. White males, et cetera, it doesn't matter. But they just reworded some elements of it and got that published.
Yeah, so they took fraudulent studies.
Mm-hmm. They made completely bogus, made up stuff.
Hokum, and got it peer reviewed and peer approved by other scholars.
Yes, in these scholarly journals.
Yes, America.
Anyway, so he is obviously actively against woke culture and this woke philosophy. It's really critical theory. It's critical race theory. And intersectionality, all of this stuff is all tied into this one underlying, this philosophy. And so I'm listening to this, and we've obviously talked about this on the show many, many times before.
Yep.
But I think it should be our primary focus, For months and months and months we've been talking about the coronavirus and this hoax. It's been perpetrated on us. And I don't mean a hoax in that the virus doesn't exist.
Rona.
Yeah, sorry, the
It
Rona.
lost its power. It is Rona now.
Yes.
It's like okay Karen, okay Rona. It's the same
Yeah.
logo. It ain't real. But yeah, keep going.
Yeah, and not that the virus doesn't exist, not that it didn't kill people, but that we should have been shut down. We've been talking about this for some
Oh
time,
yeah. Oh yeah.
and I'm just my mindset is such that we've been talking about symptoms and not been talking about the disease.
Ooh. Ooh. Cool.
You
Please
know?
go deeper. Go
Yeah.
deeper. My mind just got blown.
So the corona, the COVID-19, 84, Rona,
Rona.
you know,
You might get Rona.
virtue, the fear mongering, the shutdown of schools, all of that stuff. You know, is that necessarily part of critical race theory? No, but critical race theory informs so much of education,
Okay.
right?
Yeah. I mean,
So
white people bad, right?
yeah, there's
White
there's
people
just all kinds of things, and I'm gonna show some
bad.
articles about what's happening at the university level.
Okay.
But it's affecting. It's going to affect, and is being affected on our younger students as well, in
Sure.
public education, obviously.
Sure.
And the education debates are like coronavirus is actually kind of in some ways helped us. The shutdown has hurt us tremendously, but in the education department, it somewhat helped us. I mean, we're seeing this flight to homeschooling and
Amen.
kind of this awakening on what's actually being taught to our children.
And private school.
But
AKA
this isn't going down without a fight. But then on the other hand, we're looking at the riots.
Yeah.
That 100% is critical race theory.
Those are peaceful protests, my friend.
No.
Peaceful.
So the I'm sorry, Bo, but
listen,
I don't understand how burning down a city is peaceful protest.
Listen, 93% of the riots are peaceful. Okay. So let's not throw out the baby with the bathwater. Do you see that? Do you see that?
Yeah, 93% of the protests are peaceful.
Yeah, man.
Well, okay. Well, I'm sure that the people that really warms the cockles of the hearts of the people in the 7% of cities that aren't experiencing peaceful protests.
Was David Dorn in a peaceful protest? I was just curious. Was he part of that?
No, he was. He must have been in that 7%.
Okay, that white mom from Indiana that got killed, like brand new mom.
7%.
She said All Lives Matter.
Yeah,
Oh,
sorry, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Portland guy who got shot, murdered, hunted down, and murdered.
Oh, because he was a Trump supporter.
Because he was a Trump supporter, and then had so-called protesters chant, claiming that they weren't sad that he died.
Yeah.
Because we need to get this trash off the streets.
True. Huh.
Yeah, all of that is fueled.
Yeah.
The core of this, the reason these people are out in the streets, is because of CRT and intersectionality.
Oh.
And it doesn't stop there, because right now it's about black and brown bodies, as they like to say.
Sure.
But soon, once this dies down, it'll be about, trans bodies and homosexual bodies, LGBT, all the way up through whatever you want to be, especially straight into pedophile.
What?
As fast as they can get it.
The liberals would never normalize pedophilia.
No, they've done that on many occasions, and
did you see
we'll continue to do it. What?
See the bill they just passed in California?
Yeah.
So their cities are burning down.
Mm-hmm.
Their cities are going to crap. homelessness is running rampant and people are fleeing in California, but they have enough time to lower the penalty on gay men that sexually abuse kids that are younger. Now, this rule doesn't apply to straight pedophiles, just gay pedophiles.
Oh,
Lessened. You hear about that one?
okay. Well, that's because homosexuals are an oppressed minority.
Okay, gotcha. So when you sexually abuse a child that happens to be the same gender as you, that's completely fine because of critical race theory. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, and yeah, in this it would be like critical gender theory.
Oh, critical gender theory. Gotcha. Fair,
So
fair.
basically, it's critical theory, and we can manipulate it however we want for whatever political reason we need.
Didn't
You
our
know.
grandparents just call this Marxism?
Well, that's interesting that you say that because yes, Marxism is a big
Oh,
influence in this, but there's
okay.
also postmodernism.
Oh, gotcha.
So this is the marriage of postmodernism with Marxism
Oh,
into a political theory that uses the word wizardry of postmodernism to affect political change.
oh, okay, gotcha. Nothing could go wrong with that.
Yeah, so basically all we there is no truth, right? There's only your
Okay.
truth and my truth, our lived experiences. You might have heard that phrase. Lived
Yeah.
experience. This discounts our lived experiences.
Oh, okay. So if a
Okay?
neighbor
Your
rapes a little
truth, your
boy,
facts and your
that's okay.
facts and your statistics, okay? They are um that's a white supremacist discourse,
Oh,
obviously.
okay.
And it undermines our lived experiences, the discourse
Oh,
of our lived experiences. And
and
this
that's
isn't like that's not a joke to them. That's
oh.
straight up hardcore truth as far as they're concerned.
So if their lived experience is raping little boys, that's okay because they happen to be men. Is that how that works? Because it's their lived experience. I mean, they probably experienced that at a younger age. It's probably why they are the way they are now.
That's yeah,
But they're
that's
just
exactly
they're just continuing
yeah, they're just
the cycle
continuing the
because
cycle.
it
And
worked
they
out so
turned
well
out
for them.
okay, right?
It turned out perfect, right? I mean, no way. Are you crazy? You know what I mean? No problems with that whatsoever. Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the same, and and then the same notion gets transplanted onto the rioters. You know, we
Oh,
there's no such thing as crime really, because we're not taking into account the lived experiences of the people committing the so-called crimes. These
ah.
crimes is again, the patriarchal, white supremacist, Western notion that does not take into account the lived experiences of the people committing these so-called crimes.
So, for example,
So
Jacob Blake decides to, sexually assault a 14-year-old girl, but that's really not bad
yeah,
because
it's not really
white,
yeah,
because
but
whitey.
except that women are an oppressed minority. So how do we take that? And
Uh,
so
yeah,
um, there's a quote that James Lindsay made from one of the early postmodernist,
yeah.
um, maybe not the early, maybe the mid postmodernist theorists, basically saying that we're no longer concerned with the pursuit of truth, right?
Oh,
Because there is no truth.
oh,
There's literally no truth that we can come to.
interesting.
Okay?
Simple question. If you stop breathing, what happens?
I don't know. I mean, that's irrelevant. But the
Oh,
question,
oh,
it doesn't that doesn't matter.
oh. So absolute truth does not matter.
That doesn't matter. Well, we can't get to an absolute truth. Okay?
Okay, so
So,
drowning my child in a pool would be whatever, because it's not really truth. There's no
well,
morality to it, correct?
we'll get to
Okay, sorry.
the second part of that
I was
quote.
asking
So
questions.
there's the first part of that quote. You're thinking your thinking is clearly manipulated by these hierarchical systems
Oh,
of
okay.
oppression. Okay,
Okay, guys. I gotcha. Sounds good.
so their goal isn't the pursuit of truth. Their goal is basically whatever is politically um, uh, politically beneficial.
Beneficial necessity, necessary at the time.
Yes, exactly. What is what is politically beneficial for whatever movement it is that you are. Now, the purest, the purest, uh, postmodernist,
Sure.
the purest postmodernist would recognize that everybody has their own particular agenda and
Ah.
whatnot, which makes like doing anything pointless. You know,
Oh.
but when you marry that with a Marxist ideal,
Okay.
it's whatever is beneficial for the achievement of the utopia.
Oh.
The goal is still utopia, folks. The goal is still a Marxist utopia that will never come about.
Yeah, but
Now we have even more insidious and culturally destructive means at our proposal.
okay.
Okay, and so in your case of drowning your child, well, are you white?
I mean, I'm not white,
Okay,
but well,
so
I'm.
then
But
so
here, time,
then
but time out. I'm about to vote for Donald Trump, so
mm,
according to liberal logic, I would be white. Then yes, go
yeah,
ahead.
you're not black,
I
definitely.
ain't black
Yeah, you
because I'm
definitely
not
ain't
voting for
black.
Biden.
So in that situation, then no, what you did was evil.
Oh, but if I voted for Biden, thus restoring my blackness,
Mm-hmm.
I could do whatever I wanted because.
Because you're an oppressed minority.
Oh, okay, because I'm oppressed
But
minority as I oppress my
yes,
minority daughter, black child. Is that what you're trying to say?
correct, correct. Now,
That's what we're
but
losing.
if the plight of your child could be redirected
Sure.
towards something being anti the patriarchy, then in that situation, what you did was wrong again.
Ah,
Okay?
gotcha.
But
So,
let's say when you were arrested,
yeah, go
a
ahead.
white police officer killed you. Well,
Okay.
then what you did wasn't wrong or was at the very least inconsequential,
Okay, gotcha.
you know?
So if I was caught attempting to murder my child, but a police officer stopped me and shot me, then I would be okay because I'm black and I'm being oppressed by the system. Therefore, that's what
Yes,
you're trying to say.
whatever. And so the narrative must be whatever it must be to tear down that system. All
Ah,
systems need to be torn down
yeah, but then
and
wouldn't that?
rebuilt from the bottom up, and then we'll be in that Marxist utopia, my friend.
Yeah, but if all systems need to be torn down, then that system would have to be torn down too. It
Well,
would get
only if it
perpetual.
was created by a majority power.
Yeah, but then if you tore down the system, the majority power would be the people that tore down the system. So it'd be a
No,
cyclical.
no, because whiteness is an ever-present, eternal issue. So, as long as
Yeah.
white people aren't making the system,
So if we reversed colors, inverted them, and let's say that like Asians happen to be the dominant, people on the planet. Aren't Asians the most populated people on the planet? Isn't that
hmm,
interesting? Sorry, another story for another time. But let's say, for example, they're considered a minority, right?
well, we're not
Because
talking about the planet. We're talking about America, which is the
oh,
cause
just
of
America.
all of life's problems.
Gotcha, and that's why everybody flees here,
That's
wants
what
to
we,
live
we
here.
don't need to worry
Be a
about
part of it.
China.
China's
China's
perfect.
China. They're fine. We're good.
China's perfect.
What's that?
China, gotcha, man.
Yeah, no worries about China. Unless Donald Trump said something about China. Did Donald Trump say something about China?
Well, Donald Trump has, vehemently been against China and their crappy deals and so on and so forth. But, if Trump said it, orange man bad, therefore his idea
Yep.
bad. Because,
Exactly. Exactly.
not only is he white, he is orange. So he is even eviler. You know what I mean?
Yes. Exactly. And so this is this is the fuel for the riots.
Yeah.
This is the fuel for everything. And so and then unless you think, like we said earlier, that homeschooling will be
Well,
our
we can't have
salvation.
homeschooling. We can't have homeschooling because we can't control the narrative.
Well,
The
you
whole story
remember that New
behind it.
York Times editorial about that I think it was New York Times. We read it a few months ago, where
Yeah.
basically homeschooling was a danger. They
Yeah.
talked about child abuse that could
Yeah.
be, it said, and so many other basically parents are the enemy.
Which, it's funny. I was listening to Tim Cass the other day, and he had a guy on there, professor, and he was talking about it. He's like, it's interesting that they always use the argument that if a child stays at home, they're going to be abused, as opposed to what? Like, bullying is a pernicious reality of public schools.
Hmm.
Like, if you go to a public school, 9 times out of 10, you are going to get bullied. And, like, it is a reality. So, these kids, it is just very interesting that the assumption is that parents would be far worse to children than children are to children in a very bullied situation, which is crazy. And not only from the kids, but being bullied by teachers. Because if you think about it, you are training your child to win the approval of one person, some very mediocre human being
Hmm.
who slightly has a higher grasp of just the content that's being talked about. But the reality is the content has been watered down to an absolute abysmal level, to the point where a child would think a teacher is brilliant because a child has no perspective of what actual intelligence looks like other than their parents. But if you keep them away from your parents long enough, you'll think that the teacher is the smartest thing on the planet,
Hmm.
as they're abusing you by, brainwashing you, thinking that you need their approval more than your parents. But that's another story for another time. Sorry about that, man. That was a rant.
No, you're not wrong. So there's an article from in Fox News. Homeschool organization says public schools are blocking parents from withdrawing kids. So T.J. Schmidt, a lawyer for the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, which is awesome, by the way, which provides legal services to help parents meet requirements for transitioning children from public school to homeschool, said he's noticed an uptick in the number of parents trying to pull their kids from public school, and that's a problem to our overlords, to our betters, as Lindsay kept saying.
Oh, you mean
Um,
teachers unions?
Teachers unions, public schools, but just like the
Controllers, got it.
yeah, the people who need us to be
Yeah.
cogs in this machine. They need us to be the useful idiots that they can manipulate into rioting when that serves the political agenda.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So he's like, we see this across the country, as Smith said. I've had school officials attempt to prevent or dissuade parents from pulling their kids out, which is not their prerogative.
It's not even their right. They can't do
No.
that.
Well, but it depends on the state.
What state is this? New York or California?
He said several states. Several states.
Hey, let me guess.
He said the worst state has actually been in Florida. He said the
Are you
most
serious?
egregious situations I've had have been in Florida. He said, adding,
Wow.
it is normally a great state to homeschool, which is true. We have very, very few restrictions.
Huh.
Very few. Like, almost none. But he said, I've had numerous parents in a couple of different counties told we're not allowed to withdraw students right now.
Interesting.
And it's like, no. You are allowed and you will withdraw my student.
Hmm.
Of course, my students will never need to be withdrawn because they will never have been part of the system.
Interesting.
Now, public school districts receive funding based on the number of students enrolled in their system and thus lose funding when parents opt to homeschool their children.
Oh.
That's true.
Yeah,
So that's a problem. And many school districts are asking for more money after being forced to go virtual. Um, like us,
First of all, take that in account, by the way.
yeah,
They're asking for more money as they go virtual.
as they do, their facilities are not being used, right?
Yet no facilities, no lunches, everything's virtual.
Everything's virtual.
What is the
But that,
cost?
but the school district of Philadelphia is facing a $38 million shortfall for the next academic year,
Oh
which it
no.
fears could grow to $1 billion over the next 5 years due to the coronavirus.
Oh no. What will we ever do? I mean, George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, what did they do without public school? How in the
Ugh.
world? I mean, how did Socrates, how did you know, how did anybody live without public school? I'm shocked. I'm shocked.
Now, he goes on to say whether it's a basic miscommunication or something more nefarious where they're actively working to prohibit parents from educating their children at home, HSLDA steps in making sure we're defending the family, providing assistance and support. And it's true, they're huge advocates, at the national level.
Yeah.
And even at the state level, like they can assist you when you need legal defense because
Sure.
such and such overlord wants to make an example out of you.
Yep.
And oh yeah, this is it was Harvard Magazine. It was Elizabeth Bartholet, a Harvard law professor, calling for a presumptive ban on homeschooling.
Oh my gosh. Of
um,
course, Harvard.
as she describes the risks of homeschooling. So there's that. There's the counties doing such and such. There's legislation like Tennessee is proposing legislation for all Tennessee children need to receiving a well-being check. The Department of Education has set aside $1 million in funding to support the program. So basically, the government is now going to be checking up on your children. Are they okay in your home? And I understand that there are children being abused.
Sure.
And it's disgusting.
That's what child protective services are for, though.
Well, even child protective services and Department of Children and Families and all those organizations are terrible.
Yeah.
Like they do help some children. My sister was a guardian ad litem
Sure.
for one of the counties in Florida. And so she was the legal representation for like she wasn't their lawyer, but she was like
Advocate.
the advocate, yeah,
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
child that was being abused. And so there's some good work being done there. But
Sure.
a buddy of mine was talking to me about I think it was like a Dateline expose where it was like something in the 90th percentile, the 90 percentile, people being like something in the 90th percentile that the reports given to DCF and CPS are just wrong. They're just in error. But
Yeah.
they still come with the cops knocking on your door and taking your children
Sure.
before anything. Before
Yep.
they've accumulated any proof. All they need is that phone call.
Yep.
And then they weaponize teachers. Teachers have to say something.
Sure.
Now, we would want children to be protected,
Sure.
but we're turning teachers into, Soviet era spy on your neighbors.
Of course.
That's not good either.
Yeah,
Okay?
but we did that with the Rona. I mean,
And yeah, exactly. And then
Report your
90,
neighbor.
and then all they need is that phone call. Well, then that, I have a neighbor that is he's just been ticking me off.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't cut his lawn the right way. He's got Trump stickers on his car.
Oh, those Trump. Those Trump supporters.
And
swear.
I am a psychotic person. So I just called DCF and laugh the whole time that they take away his children.
You mean a Biden voter? Is that what you mean?
Possibly. Or you remember the stories about the kids who were just taken by the hospitals.
Yeah.
Like there was a couple like a few years ago where like they were in the Boston hospital, Boston General, and they were going to see their regular doctor who had moved. He didn't have offices there anymore, so they went to see somebody else, and then all of a sudden the guy's like, "All right, well, we're taking your child, and your child has this, this, and this. No, actually, they have this, this, and this, and we've been seeing somebody about this. We have we have an actual doctor who used to work here, who gave us this diagnosis. We know this is what it is. No, you're wrong. They have this, and because of that, we're taking custody of your child because you're putting them in danger. Meanwhile, they're just watching their child deteriorate with what little time they get to spend
Yeah.
with them while they're working on this legal mishmash,
Yeah.
Yeah, Bobby the Bull says CPS are legal kidnappers. Their favorite targets happen to be Christian families.
No, it's weird.
And more than half of the time, their charges disappear from existence. You just don't hear it in the news that often. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have, obviously, any statistics on that, but something worth looking into, at the
Sure.
very least.
Sure.
It's gross. And so, so think about that from a homeschooling perspective. Oh, there's flood? Okay, well, let's just weaponize CPS and DCF against these people who clearly are endangering their children because they're not educating them properly.
Yeah, but they're going to do this no matter what, right? They're going to do this with homeschool. They've done this with private schools already. Like they tried to, they're doing
that's what I'm saying.
homosexual. I mean, the thing is this is long story short is at the end of the day, people are going to do whatever it takes to control the thoughts of your children.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, the only way, like, because here's the thing, I hate to do this, but listen, the psychotic chick in high school with daddy issues has daddy issues because daddy probably isn't home, probably because she has this crazy weird family life, and she does dumb things because she has daddy issues, right?
Yes.
What is the number one pervasive problem with any criminal when it comes to no matter what race it is, black, white, Hispanic, 9 times out of 10, dad's not at home, right? So at the end of the day, what they're going to do on a macro level, I'm taking it macro, bro. I'm just taking it macro, where you're at, is at the end of the day, if you come from a stable, normal home, and especially if you choose to send your kid to homeschool or private school, like you send your kids to homeschool, or you send your kids to the next room to get schooled, right? I send my kid to private school. They don't have control of that conversation. They don't have control or influence in that reality. They would much rather you be chaotic and susceptible to either crime or whatever the dogma is of the day.
They want you to be easily controlled.
100%. It's a control.
It's all about control.
Yes.
And that, and we'll touch on that further.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we got school district making parents sign waiver agreeing not to monitor virtual instruction. So now that we have to do it all virtually, parents are seeing what we're doing. And so this is again Tennessee. A school district in Tennessee is asking parents to sign a form agreeing not to monitor their children's virtual classrooms over concerns that, quote, non-student observers could overhear confidential information. What about my child is confidential? What about my child's education is confidential?
That's a great question. But they could hide it in the ivory towers of educational institutions and you couldn't see it. The only thing that they would let you see is what's going on in the parent-teacher conference. Yep. And, we said this a long time ago.
The parent-teacher song and dance.
No, 100%. Yeah. So, like, at the end of the day, you just have to take a teacher's word for it, just like a kid has to take the approval of a teacher's word for it. And I'm not diminishing teachers. I think what's going on? We got people watching from Poland. What's up? But all I'm saying is, at the end of the day, right, the veil is lifted. That's the most beautiful thing about the internet, and especially in the coronavirus. Like, because everybody can sit around and be like, "Oh, Rona's been horrible." And to a lot of things, it has been. But the reality of the situation is the veil has been lifted, right? In positive ways. We talked about the ability for people to work from home. That's an amazing thing. We've been talking about that for years. Especially now in most professions, you can do it from home. But especially here's the thing. But if we're at home, the parents are home, and the kids are at home learning virtually because they're afraid of the Rona. The knife's edge of the hysteria is the exposure to teachers. And a lot of times, the reason why a lot of people are switching to homeschool is they realize I'm a hell of a lot smarter than sloppy teacher whatever, and I can teach my kid a heck of a lot better and actually have a vested interest in my child. Because here's the thing:
Mm-hmm.
imagine.
And that's fantastic, but they're not going to let it slide.
No, because here's the difference. If you're a parent, you actually are teaching someone you love.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, that's the beauty of homeschooling, and you are in control of what you. The control is at the most granular level.
Yeah.
This isn't the federal Department of Education controlling our child's minds. This isn't the state governments controlling our child's minds. This isn't the local school district controlling our child's minds. This is the parents, nurturing their child's minds. And some of it may be indoctrination. But you know what? They're the parents. My goal is to get my child to learn how to think so that the school districts and the state governments and the federal governments and the news media will have a much harder time controlling what they think.
Yeah.
Because they'll know how to think.
Yeah, I mean,
but I also want to instill my values and my beliefs in them, and hopefully they will adopt them as their own.
I hope so.
But
bro.
but they're going to come for it. We need to stay vigilant. And then eventually they're going to become adults, and they'll and then they might end up in a university, and that's a big problem. So I got like a bunch of articles right here, and I'm just going to read little bits of it.
Yeah.
Okay. Maryland College forms white accountability group for faculty, staff, and administrators. The group is for white and white passing folks in the Loyola community. So you might not actually be Caucasian, but you're close enough to Caucasian that you pretty much benefit from white privilege. So you're an evil sinner too.
Dear God.
So So it's about engaging in deep, meaningful conversation and exercises on anti-racism. Now you might think, anti-racism, that's good. I'm against racism.
Sure. Who is it?
No, that's not what anti-racism is. Let me see if I can find what anti-racism is.
What does that even mean? I'm still a miss on that one.
Well, it's not what you think it is, but
who's for racism other than Black Lives Matter and Antifa? I mean, who's for that? Because clearly they're for against white.
There's a great website run by James Lindsay called newdiscourses.com.
Okay.
And he basically keeps a record of all the critical theory speak.
Okay.
And there's a bunch of different articles, on this subject. It's called the Social Justice Encyclopedia. So, let's look at it. Anti-racism.
Yep.
The opposite of racist isn't not racist. It is anti-racist. This is from Ibram X. Kendi, who wrote a book called How to Be an Anti-Racist. He's obviously a critical race theorist.
Okay, gotcha.
What's the difference? One endorses either the idea of a racial hierarchy as a racist or racial equality as an anti-racist. One either believes problems are rooted in groups of people as a racist or locates the roots of problems in power and policies as an anti-racist. One either allows racial inequities to persevere, inequities, not inequalities, inequities, as a racist or confronts racial inequities as an anti-racist. There is no in-between safe space of not racist. The claim of not racist neutrality is a mask for racism. This may seem harsh, but it's important at the outset that we apply one of the core principles of anti-racism, which is to return the word racist itself back to its proper usage. Racist is not, as Richard Spencer argues, a pejorative. It is not the worst word in the English language. It is not the equivalent of a slur. It is descriptive, and the only way to undo racism is to consistently identify and describe it and then dismantle it. And then he says, this definition, which does not merely mean against racism, as one might assume of the term, is absolutely standard in social justice. In fact, it reflects the core tenet of critical race theory, that racism is ordinary and pervades everything. As may be seen in Kendi's use of the word inequities, anti-racism is to be thought of in terms of equity, not equality. And then it just keeps going on. It's much longer. But so basically, you get the gist of it.
Yes.
So this is a quote from one of the persons who's in the white accountability group. It says, "For me, it's all about the fact that I know I'm racist. I grew up in the United States of America. It's part of who I am."
What?
This woman, which that's a little gender insensitive to call her a woman.
Are you assuming her gender, bro?
Yeah, but whatever.
You're such a white guy.
Well, yeah. Well, this is from the article, so I'm coming down on this.
Sure,
I'm an anti masculinist. So anyway, I'm an anti-patriarchist. So
yeah.
So she said, "For me, it's all about the fact that I know I'm racist. I know I'm racist. I grew up in the United States of America. It's part of who I am. So basically, I grew up in the USA. How could I not be racist?"
Very simply, you grew up in the United States of America, one of the least racist places on the planet, one of the most accepting places on the planet, the melting pot. How in the world are you automatically racist because you were born somewhere?
But this is and with a certain skin tone. This is the core of CRT. All right, next article. Colleges look to decolonize curriculum after national protests against police brutality.
They say decolonize?
Decolonize. So that's another social justice term, which you can look up at newdiscourses.com. Following outrage over multiple instances of alleged police brutality over the summer, many U.S. colleges began the process of decolonizing their curriculums. Schools such as American University have announced plans to review and decolonize curriculums with the goal of increasing diversity in their English department. Rutgers University is doing this by mandating that instructors take an anti-racist classroom training in their English department. At Seton Hall University, one professor who is also the program director of the Department of Educational Studies, Edmund Ajapong, wrote a book on advising academics on how to decolonize the curriculum. So, quote, "Across America, people are toppling statues and lowering flags that symbolize and honor racism. But the real edifice of structural racism in this country is the education system, and that has to change. We need to decolonize the classroom." So, what does that mean?
How do you decolonize math?
Well, that's a great question.
How do you decolonize arithmetic, reading?
Well, don't you understand
writing?
The structures of arithmetic? Well, writing and reading are written in predominantly proper English, which only promotes white supremacy, because not everybody speaks like that. And not everybody is going to think like that. And so not everybody should have to read like that.
Well, the point of standardized language is so that other people can...
No, the point of standardized language is promoting white supremacy, Ray.
So then how do you explain Mandarin, which is the most spoke language on the planet?
China has nothing to do with this. This is about the United States. This is about the West.
What about French, Spanish? Those are standardized languages.
Yes, and that's a problem.
It's a problem.
Because they're from the West, too. But they need to do their own thing. Do you understand?
Wow.
Do you understand? So, you asked about decolonizing arithmetic. There's literally an argument going on about how they can make 2 + 2 = 5. because 2 plus
Wow.
2 equaling 4 is a colonizing, supremacist, oppressive system.
How?
Because because it forces people to go by a standard.
Why would
They
that be a
want
bad
to
thing?
topple all standards. They want
Why
to
would a
topple
standard be
all
bad?
systems.
Why would a standard be bad?
Because then people have to live up to it.
Yeah, but wait a minute. So wait, standards are bad, but they want to control the educational system.
And write the new standards. The new standards not created by the West.
Oh,
See,
gotcha. Okay, interesting. So what does that look like
oh, it
exactly?
looks like the utter destruction of our entire society.
Okay.
But to them, that's a good thing. All right, next article. Professor, nothing wrong with murder of Trump supporter from a moral perspective. A
No,
Rhode Island professor appeared to defend the murder of a right-wing Portland protester. In a comment on his blog, Loomis said, "I see nothing wrong with it, at least from a moral perspective." Do I need to read more?
no, because how do you justify murder? I mean, I know that liberals do this all the time when they kill babies and they don't care when black people kill black people. But how do you justify murder? I mean, because that's the quintessential sin of the whole Black Lives Matter movement is because cops are out there killing black people all the time, right? Even though that's not the case at all.
Yeah.
That's the problem is the murder, but then you flip the pigment, then it's okay. So murder's selectively bad. I'm confused because here's the thing. I'm a crazy guy that
It's only good. Again, it's only good if it's
politically
it's only
expedient.
bad. Yeah, it's good if it's politically beneficial. Now,
Uh,
listen to what he said. He said he killed a fascist. I see nothing wrong with it, at least from a moral perspective. He further added that tactically, that's a different story. But you could say the same thing about John Brown. So it might have not been the best tactical decision, but he killed a fascist. That's fascists aren't people anymore.
how
And
is
and obviously he wasn't fascist.
how do we know that he's a fascist?
Because he was a Trump supporter, so automatically fascist. Even though,
So can you give one
well,
thing that Trump's done that's fascist?
well, well, we don't have to. We just have to redefine what fascist means.
Oh, okay, got you. So we just
Fascist means Republican.
but how are the Republicans fascist?
No, 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 no. Fascist means Republican.
How do you
No, no,
define
no, no.
that?
You're asking the wrong questions. Fascist means Republican. They're synonymous, so they don't have to. What are fascist things? Republican things are fascist things.
What's the game they played in South Park where it was like completely made up on the fly game that had no rules and it was just
It wasn't
complete?
on South. Are you talking about Calvin Ball from Calvin and Hobbes?
Not Calvin Ball. There was like a South Park that was similar
I
to
don't
that.
remember South Park by that, but
It was like very similar. It's like, well, what's the rules of the game? Well, there are no rules of the game. It's the game, and it's
mm-hmm.
well, I don't play this game anymore. I don't because it's absolutely absurd. It's absurd. How is murder good in one case and not in the other? If murder is bad, then murder is bad, right? And what defines what is good and bad, especially in postmodern? What's the definition of what good and bad is? What
Whatever you need it to be.
negative?
Again, whatever you need it to be to advance the agenda. Next article. Stanford pushes narrative that it's nearly impossible to think outside of white supremacy. Okay? So in other words, all of your thoughts are informed by white supremacy if you're white, and it's nearly impossible to break that.
I want to bench 600 pounds. How does that have to do with white supremacy? All the best raw bench
Well, you're
press
not white.
are black.
You're not white. So,
how is basketball white supremacy?
well, it's the basketball owners are all white. So, obviously they're making slaves out of their millionaire
How is
players.
Cardi B white supremacy? Okay.
I don't know that she is. I mean, first of all, she interviewed Joe Biden, so she's she's pretty woke, so she's doing
But
her
wait a minute.
part.
Joe Biden is trying to be the highest office on the planet right now.
Hmm.
And he happens to be a white guy, correct?
But he's an anti-racist, so
How? He wrote the
again,
busing.
again, it's right if it promotes the political agenda.
It just sounds a lot like liberal logic. Like it is. None of this makes sense. Like none of this makes sense at all.
Well, it doesn't if you hold to logic,
Ah,
and they
but that's
want
where
to
you're right.
tear down the foundations of logic because it
Inter-
suits their political agenda.
Interesting.
So, okay, impossible to think outside of white supremacy. One speaker at this event describes her current work as being dedicated to decolonizing the human spirit. White supremacy so permeates our institutions, policies, practices, and ways of knowing that it is nearly impossible to think outside it. The ways of knowing. You know, that's a study called epistemology, I believe.
Hmm.
And so even our ways of knowing, that's a reference to mathematics, science, logic, etc.
Which are white.
They're white supremacist. They
Hmm.
maintain the systems that promote white supremacy and keep minorities, peoples down.
Interesting.
The prosaic solutions of governing bodies do virtually nothing, often less than nothing, to mitigate the everyday ongoing devastation.
Okay.
Devastation.
Devastation.
The racist systems are in the process of everyday ongoing devastation, they say.
Okay.
All right, next article.
Yeah, you gotta keep going. This is just getting crazy. I can't even handle it.
Let's see. Let's do this one. English professors demand higher ed reject standard English language, put some respect on black language. A group of professors signed a letter demanding that higher education rethink its approach to language. The academics asserted that the use of standard English as the accepted communicative norm is rooted in racism.
How?
So, we demand teachers stop using academic language and standard English as the accepted communicative norm, which reflects white mainstream English. Teachers stop teaching black students to code switch and teach black students about anti-black linguistic racism and white linguistic supremacy instead. Political discussions and praxis that center black language as teacher researcher activism for classrooms and communities. Teachers develop and teach black linguistic consciousness that works to decolonize the mind and or language, unlearn white supremacy, and unravel anti-black linguistic racism. Black dispositions in the research and teaching of black language.
What's black language?
Well, Ebonics could be considered a black language.
Yeah, but country people speak Ebonics, and they're white.
I mean, it's not just Ebonics.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
It's anything that isn't anything that a black person, any way a black person speaks, from any way except for academic language and standard English.
We live in Orlando, Florida, which is predominantly Puerto Ricans, Boricuas, which all have, roots in African culture. They speak Spanish, so Spanish wouldn't that be
Spanish is
predominantly
okay. Yeah, Spanish is okay.
Yeah, but it comes from a white culture. Spain
No,
is
no,
white.
no.
Spain
It
is
comes
white
from
people.
no. But see, Puerto Ricans aren't speaking Spanish. They're not
Oh,
speaking Castilian Spanish. They're
yeah.
speaking Puerto Rican Spanish, and
They say
Dominicans speak
Puerto
Dominican
Rican,
Spanish, and
so
Cubans speak Cuban Spanish.
Cubano,
And
yeah, gotcha. But it's still a derivative of the original
that's
language.
okay. I mean, Ebonics is a derivative of English.
Gotcha.
But what?
But what if I don't understand what the word WAP means? What if I, because I just discovered this word WAP.
Well, then you need to be
Apparently it
educated.
means worship and praise, right?
You need to
Worship and praise?
develop and be taught Black linguistic consciousness, and decolonize your mind and/or language, unlearn white supremacy, and unravel anti-Black linguistic racism. That's what
So
you need to do.
what does WAP stand for? Waffles and pancakes? Is that what it stands for?
Worship and prayer.
Worship and prayer.
Yeah.
I heard it. I heard a meathead say it was weights and plates. Is that what
Ooh.
WAP means? So my child needs to hear what WAP means to understand what 2 + 2 = 4
It's
is.
like water and pork.
Water and pork. Got it. Interesting.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
All right. Next article. Last article, actually.
Last article. We're already an hour into this, man. So let's go.
Oh, I know. I said we came to play today. Okay.
You came to play.
We came to play. All right. This is the last article.
Okay.
Hot temperatures in minority inner city neighborhoods is caused by systemic racism, new study says.
Dear God. Okay.
A new study from a professor at the University of Washington claimed a lack of trees in minority neighborhoods causes higher temperatures. The study asserted the reason that fewer trees appear in minority neighborhoods was because of racism and white supremacy.
So the whites chopped down the trees?
I don't know what they... Let's see. Let's read this quote. No trees mean the reduced capacity to have a cooler environment, and that's exactly why it's hotter in some low-income neighborhoods where they have very few trees, very few vegetation to cool the environment. I thought there was a greenhouse effect.
I did too. I thought it got actually warmer if you were around a bunch of trees. Interesting. So it's so funny how science does that.
Okay, so
it's just weird.
The paper claimed that our contemporary fight for civil rights in the wake of unjust murders and continued racial oppression of black and indigenous communities, stresses the need to interrogate and abolish systemic racism. Moreover, it claims that insidious white supremacist structures that perpetuate racism throughout society compromise both public and environmental health, solidifying the need to radically dismantle systems of racial and economic oppression.
I have a question.
Still doesn't explain why there's fewer trees.
Yeah, one, that's part of it. The other part is, isn't their big issue emissions? Isn't that what causes temperatures to rise or fall or whatever, according to their monkey man science? Isn't that the issue?
Say that again?
Yeah, so the issue is the environment's getting destroyed because of white people, right?
Well, yeah, definitely.
The number one emissions country in the world is China. They're about like 50% of the emission that happens in the world. So exactly how does white people have to do with that? Specifically since European countries don't emit as much, pollutant, blah, 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 into the air. And Europeans tend to be white. And America has one of the lowest emission rates in history since leaving the Paris Climate Accords, by the way. How does that hold water?
Well, obviously we've taken a more insidious tack, and we're purposefully keeping trees out of. While we've been decreasing standards, we've been then more, let's say, it's more subtle and more precise in our oppression, in our environmental oppression of minorities. We see, we stopped blanketing our country and thus affecting also white people, which we would never really truly want to do. And so we've made it more precise and more narrowed down, like urban areas peopled by black and brown bodies. Now we can be more subtle and precise and take them out that way.
So is that why on one side of the border in Tijuana they burn tires, and on the other side in El Paso they don't? Is that because of white people? White people force?
Yes, it is yes. It's the hegemonic oppression of America as a whole on the peoples of Mexico and
Oh,
South America, Central and South
gotcha.
America.
So
Yeah.
El Paso forced Juarez to burn tires. Gotcha. Makes
Yeah.
complete sense.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Oh,
But
this is
like,
great.
so that was a ton of articles, right?
Yeah.
Do you know how long it took me to find those articles?
How long?
Well, first of all, I mean, I did go to one site that specializes in this. It's
Yeah.
campusreform.org.
Sure.
But it took me like 2 minutes to get all of those articles because that's like what's happening right now.
Right now.
Like, that's main page. It's just
And guess what
article after article. This is everywhere in our universities, and they are unapologetic for it, for
Yeah.
the madness. And
Yeah.
now, and then it's bleeding out from there into all of society, every facet of it. We need to be aware of this. We need to be standing against it.
Yep.
Now, it's evil, and it will destroy us. The
100%.
video that I watched, the interview, he was talking about the desynchronization of time. And you've heard about this. I mean, some of the systemic oppression put on black people is that is being on time. That standard of being on time.
Yeah,
Right.
because that's only a white thing. Only white people.
Well, it's
are
a way
on
that
time.
white people oppress others. It is
That's
only
right.
a white thing, and then we oppress other groups with that stricture.
Sure.
Anyway, so he talked about they ran some models on society, calculating just minute desynchronizations of time
Yeah.
amongst people groups, and then calculated how that affected productivity, and with very little change, with only minor desynchronization, productivity just plummets.
Huh. Huh.
That one little thing would destabilize our entire country and our economy.
Interesting. Yeah.
That's how serious this is.
Listen. Trust me. I'm overwhelmed with the level of craziness that's happening. So it's just at the end of the day, like I don't know, man. I think for me, I see this as um, I think there's an awakening happening. To be honest with you,
Sure,
I think that
I
there's
hope
an
so.
awakening. I think that the private school enrollments like jumped like 30% since the Rona. I think homeschooling is like blowing up. Um, and it's funny. I get on a daily basis my buddy up in Troy, Ohio. She goes to Wright State, and it's one of the bigger schools in Dayton, Ohio. And she like literally made a joke and made a video. She's like, Ray, I am probably going to catch Trump derangement syndrome before I catch Corona here. And her degree has nothing to do with politics. But everything that she's taught is, I hate Trump, Trump bad. Everything is taught in the academic realm has nothing to do with actual academics or higher learning or thought process that is going to promote
And if it
a
does,
society
it's
that they
being
want.
attacked.
Yes, which is hilarious to me. So
It's scary to me.
Yeah, I mean, listen. At the end of the day, we know who's in control. I think at the end
Sure,
of the
for
day,
sure.
and it's permeating in Christian culture, sadly.
Yeah,
But I think at the end of the day, it's bringing awareness to it, right? That's why plausible foolishness exists, to bring
yeah.
awareness to the madness that people literally believe that being on time is a white tenant, literally believe that white people are stealing the trees from black neighborhoods. That, like at the end of the day, like this is why this platform exists. That's why these things happen. Because there's a lot of people that are aware of this, and I think they're waking up to this stuff. And, at the end of the day, that's why we're here to point a light and shed a light on this absurdity, on this madness, on this liberal logic
For sure.
that we're trying to permeate in our kids. And this is why desperately they need our kids in public school. They need our kids being brainwashed. They need us not watching what they're telling our kids, because any sensible parent will be like, Yeah, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. How can you complain about being on time when school has a time that starts at? It makes no sense.
Well,
How in the
how
world?
does anything function if nobody's synchronized? You know?
Well, because but that's the madness. So,
Yeah,
at the end of the day, that's what we got to deal with, man, and that's what we got to watch out for. So, listen,
for sure. But
I think it's going
I
to be
want
hard
to
to
I
do.
want to make a comment because you
Sure,
said you think that there's awakening happening, and I hope that's true. I think that there is an awakening happening,
sure,
but I don't know that they see. I think they are awake to the symptoms, like we said earlier.
sure.
They're awake to the symptoms. They're seeing the symptoms out there. They're seeing this coronavirus nonsense. They're seeing, Trump derangement syndrome. They're seeing the riots and they're saying, this is wrong. My hope is that being awake to the symptoms actually does lead them to an awakening on the disease causing it.
Sure.
And I fear that that they won't, that they'll only see that this is wrong and we need to do something about it, and then put the band-aid on, or the band-aid gets put on, and then they go back to sleep. Meanwhile, academia is still doing exactly. I mean, they're not stopping.
Well, the
You know,
thing is,
our cities are burning, and they're pushing harder than ever.
this is I think two reasons. One, I understand where you're coming from. I think it implodes on itself. It ultimately will always implode on
Yeah,
itself.
because they eventually have to eat themselves.
Yeah, I mean, so especially from the academic standpoint, there's going to be a point when people, and it's already happening, people are waking up and saying, like, I don't really want to spend $150,000 to get an education that pays me 25 to 30 grand a year.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a horrible investment.
For
I
sure.
don't want to go to school. I mean, my buddy that's going back to school, she's like, this is ridiculous. Like, I'm spending money to hear them bitch about Trump all the time. That doesn't make any sense. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what does this have to do with my degree that I'm trying to learn? And it's going to implode on itself. The public school system will eventually implode on itself,
Mm-hmm.
right?
The university system will implode on
It's
itself.
a bubble. The university system is a bubble.
For sure.
And it's
It,
just going to take the right nudge
it's
of
a
people being
bubble
like,
built on free government
yeah.
money.
It's like, I don't know if I want to be a part of this. I don't know if I want to send my kids to this.
Well, I'm definitely going to tell my kids, know what you want to do. You know,
Well,
pick something, go for it, and if it requires, and I'll let you, and we'll decide whether or not that requires university.
yeah,
There's only four things that require university.
yeah. No, I mean, to your point, I think our generation are raising kids that we came out of the lie. The lie was, you know, I mean, and I understand why. Our parents grew up in households that their parents didn't go to college, right? So our grandparents didn't go to college. They didn't need to. They could make a really good living without going to school.
But then that
Well,
started to fall away, and then only the people with college degrees were living the life.
yeah,
And so then it
yeah,
was okay. You need to get a college degree. Now everybody can get a college degree. Well, yeah, I mean,
yeah.
easy
Yeah,
peasy. And
but
we're starting to be in this flux where that no longer means. I mean, it definitely means nothing to a certain extent, but in some realms it does still.
sure,
So we're not totally out of needing it,
sure.
but there's really only it's really STEM fields are the only fields
Yeah,
that you really need it.
STEM is if you're going for liberal arts, no offense, it's not going to get you paid anything. It's
I
not
would
going
say
to.
don't waste your time or your money at
No,
all. If you want to be an artist or a writer or whatever, just practice your art.
yeah,
Find you can audit an art class
sure.
if you really want some instructions.
And to your point, I think people are waking up to this. So now you've got our generation who we lived that lie. We got into a bunch of debt. We, did what we were supposed to do. And the story of you go to college, you're gonna make $100,000 because you've got that college degree, and that reality didn't happen.
Yeah.
And we're sitting around being like, yo, I'm not sending my kids to college. Because think about it, every parent that you know, and it's like, well, I'm going to send my kid to school. I'm sitting around with my wife saying, I don't know if we want to send our girls to school. I don't know if we want to send them there because at the end of the day, I don't want them I don't want them saddled up with a bunch of debt that they can't pay
Mm-hmm.
and take forever to really get on with life. So there's going to be and I think there's a lot more people that are finally waking up to that. And the chickens are going to come to roost with colleges. There will be a reckoning day. And what's not helping the case is absurd things like you talked about in the articles today. So at the end of the day, I think the underneath, it's ugly, but the underneath is in the underneath for a reason, and it will return itself. It'll return to the dead because of the stupidity that we're seeing every single day. So
I hope so. I really
yeah.
do.
Hey, listen, one way or another, it's going to happen.
Either way, we'll be fighting the good fight.
Amen. So hey, man, it's been a great show, dude.
I agree.
Listen, informative. My brain's exploding. A lot of information.
That's why they call me the mad scientist.
You are the mad scientist. You are the mad
scientist. I am an oppressor who.
You oppressive white guy. Guys, thank you so much for watching today, man. Make sure you check us out at twitch.tv/Plausible Foolishness. Thank you for everybody that sponsors, that follows us, that does the thing. We really appreciate you guys for funding this operation. We are the guys fighting the good fight. We are not LA, Chicago, New York, San Francisco bullcrap. We're in that flyover country. I saw a really funny meme the other day, like when Californians call all the other states flyover country, but at least we have power.
Yeah, I saw you post that. That was good.
But at least we have power.
Yeah.
We listen. We're real human beings in real America, in good old Florida here, and we have a perspective on things. And hopefully, if you like what you're seeing, we're everywhere now. Where are we at? We're like audio everywhere right now, right?
Yeah. Anywhere, just about anywhere except for Stitcher yet. Sorry, Dusty.
Dusty.
But
isn't that where Joe Rogan is? Stitcher.
No, he's on Spotify.
Spotify. Gotcha.
We're on Spotify, right there with Joe Rogan, number 2,
yeah.
Right under Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan, got it.
And then
are we going to be on Rogan pretty soon? Isn't he having us on the show?
Oh yeah, somewhere in 20.
Yeah. He had a good analogy the other day about Biden. He said voting for Biden is like going on a long outdoors trip at nighttime with a flashlight that has no batteries.
Yeah, or a flashlight is running out of batteries.
It's running out of batteries. Like it's going to be bad.
So we're all over podcasts, and then you can find us on Instagram and TikTok and a little bit of Twitter, Parler,
Instagram.
But Instagram is a good one. That's where we do most of the memeing and stuff. It's fun. And then you can also support us. There's a donate button down below, or there's also a link to plausiblefoolishness.locals.com. It's not a dating site.
It's not.
It's actually a better Patreon.
Yep.
And if you support us there, if you become a subscriber for just $5, you actually get additional content, which we recorded the first of today. We said we recorded the first of last week, but the audio got screwed up because I'm an idiot. And what can you say? The mad scientist, even your two kings make mistakes sometimes. But this time we got it. So this week will be the first episode of the Council of Two Kings, where you get to listen in as we discuss what we're going to talk about for the day.
Is that the name of it? The Council of Two Kings?
Yes.
I like that.
Yeah.
The Council of Two Kings.
Yes. So
you get a ringside. You get to be in the Council of Kings and Arthur's Round Table, baby. You get to see what the kings are up to, man. So, but guys, thank you so much for watching tonight, man. Matt, it's always been amazing. I love you to death. If I didn't have the fat back from a big man lifting heavy things, I would have been there with you physically. But I moved into a new house. You know what I mean? It's like crazy. This horrible Trump economy has allowed me to get a house. I mean, it is ridiculous. that horrible orange man.
Ugh,
Uh, what a
the
jerk.
worst.
He's so terrible. But I love doing the show. Episode 128. We're getting close to 130 episodes, which is insanity. But guys, you can always check us out at twitch.tv/plausible foolishness. Make sure you subscribe and like. We are also on YouTube as well. If you like the YouTube format, we are on the audio. We're everywhere, man. You just got to go find us. It's Plausible Foolishness. It's the two kings. It's the strong one and the mad scientist. It has been a phenomenal night. Dude, I think my brain is exploding, and I know the audience's brains are exploding too. So thanks again, bro, and for dropping the knowledge. And we out, bro. We out.
Yeah, we out. Peace.
Boom.